Hello everybody, my name is Shatnos, and welcome to This Week in Mythic Plus. This week's affixes are Fortified, Bursting, Volcanic, and of course, Prideful. This is basically the best week on the calendar, and it's almost certainly the last time we will see these affixes before patch 9.1. I really hope so. It would be crazy if we go another 12 weeks before getting to that patch. So, I mean, looking at the calendar, this is the one. This is the ideal week to push Keystones. However, a little bit of a ironic wrench in the works there is the fact that this weekend is also a Mythic Plus tournament called the Great Push, which is the top 6 teams from qualifiers last weekend are going to be competing to push up keys as high as they can, but on the tournament realm. And that probably means that they'll be practicing for that during this week as well. So that probably means that the handful of very best teams that decided they wanted to do that and that then qualified are actually not going to be pushing keys this week. So it's going to be a little bit of a weird thing where we may not actually see any records set, at least on the live servers this week, whereas, I definitely would have otherwise expected that to happen. Looking at the texture of these affixes, Volcanic is basically a non-affix every time it shows up. It's very, very rarely impactful, and even if it does, sometimes annoy you a little bit, it's kind of clearly less impactful than every other possibility on this column. Bursting, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. Bursting can actually cause a problem in certain dungeons, in certain spots, especially if you're grouping with an undergeared healer. If you're playing in a situation like that, particularly, it can actually be more impactful if you're kind of blasting through keys as well and you're just killing stuff really fast. Then it actually can be an affix that does feel bad this week. A couple of points of counterplay. This expansion, it is a magic effect, so it's dispellable. That means every healer has one extra, one global that just clears all stacks from one person. That's very powerful. And also priests, both healing priests and shadow priests, have mass dispel to completely remove bursting from the whole group. And of course, dwarfs and dark iron dwarfs can also clear their stacks once every 2 minutes with their racials. So depending on your group comp, you may have a lot of options to minimize the affix, or you may just have to deal with it. Even if you just have to deal with it, it's going to be a good week. But if you have some of those buttons, particularly if everybody remembers that they work against bursting, then it can be a lot easier. So that's the deal with the affixes. In terms of the dungeons that there are this week, I kind of think of weeks like this as there being 3 different categories of dungeons. There's the kind of slog, grindy ones that are the ones that you're kind of least excited to get. That includes the other side. For me, that's also Sanguine Depths and Theater of Pain. And these are the keys that you probably are like, if you're just looking to do one keystone, you do exclamation point keys in your group, you go somewhere that's not one of these keys, right? But, if you have a specific thing you need, this is a good week for basically all 3 of those dungeons relative to most weeks. Then there's kind of that middle tier of dungeons, Spires of Ascension, Mists, and Halls, actually both really great dungeons. So Spire's kind of alone in that middle tier, and then Mists and Halls. And then there's the Plaguefalls and the Necrotic Wakes of the world, which Plaguefall and Necrotic Wake can be really, really fast if you have somebody or multiple people in your group who know how to do all of the different weapon usage, Plague Borer usage, if you have the ability to take care of those things. If you're somebody who hasn't learned how to do that yet, this is a great week to start figuring that out, because most of the other affixes aren't going to throw a wrench in your plans like Bullstring would, or, Grievous stuff making things harder. So I would say that's a great goal to set for yourself this week, is go and look at how some of the top teams run Plaguefall and Necrotic Wake. And there's a lot of stuff that you can copy, even if you don't want to copy all of the really hard stuff. There's a lot of really of good little time saves you can do, and just kind of the general idea of what do we want to use our spears on? How do we use the Plague Borers in this dungeon? I think is a really useful skill to develop. So I'd recommend that if you are interested. Of course, my routes, particularly the no-skips routes, don't do very much of that because they're designed to be very accessible. If you're interested in grabbing these routes, they're available. There'll be a link in the description below, so you can go and grab them and import them into your own MDT. They're over on Raider.io. So yeah, that's my brief kind of weather report of the dungeons this week. In terms of what classes are going to do well this week, of course, it's a great week for priests of all persuasions. it's kind of a double whammy great week for Discipline Priests, actually. Because Discipline Priests tend to struggle, in my experience, when there are really healing intensive affixes going on. But on weeks like this, they minimize the bursting affix with Mass Dispel, and they just, they get to not worry too much about the other affixes messing with them too much. So I would say great week for that spec in particular. Obviously a fantastic week for Shadow Priest from the Mass Dispel that they're bringing. And then all around, it's a pretty good week, especially for big AoE specs, because a lot of the bigger pulls work this week to the biggest level you could imagine on Fortified. So you'll often see, if you're in a group and you're doing the Arden World area, you'll often see groups doing it in a lot fewer pulls than the no skips route and even the with skips route, right? They'll do this place in 3 or 4 pulls, and that is something that, assuming you have some uncapped AoE in your group, can be really, really nice. So look for the option to do that. Of course, if your group is all AoE capped, there's no benefit to doing that anyway. You may as well just do it in this pace, and that's a lot of groups this expansion. So, check to see what you have before deciding what pulls you want to do in those sorts of sections of dungeons. Anyway, that's about it for this weekly video. If you're interested in a little bit more of an in-depth video, 12 weeks ago I made a video for this set of affixes. I think maybe now I've made 2 for this set of affixes. There might, maybe if you go back 24 weeks, you can find another set. I cannot remember anymore. This patch has gone on for so long. It feels like Groundhog Day, but at some point soon we'll get to some new we'll get to some new content, I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come check out my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Dratnos. Hit like and subscribe and stuff. If you're interested as well, over on the Warcraft YouTube channel, I got the chance to make a video there for the Great Push event, which was actually really, really fun and cool to make. So if you're looking for a short little video about Spires of Ascension and some tips and tricks in there, they're actually applicable to live key strats a lot as well. So go check that out. It's pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.